Hi, welcome to this session of Franchise Wisdom. In today's session, we're going to interview a great multi-unit franchisee. His name is Brent Veach, and we're going to learn a lot about what made him successful to where he is right now. So, hi, Brent. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I should appreciate you asking me to speak with you today.
Oh, no, my pleasure. I love the fact that you're willing to share your story, your information, your best practices so that people that watch this session can learn from you and aspire to be you at some point, right?
Well, like we said earlier, I hope people can learn from the mistakes that we've made and how we've been able to correct and improve the process.
Yes, because as we say, there's a lot of mistakes and failures on the way to success for sure. Yeah. All right, that's great. So let's go ahead and get started with the first question is, tell us a little bit about who Brent Veach is and, before franchising, like where do you come from? Who, before franchising, what were you all about?
Well, there actually was life before franchising. All right. I graduated from Baylor University in Texas, loved it, worked for a large CPA firm in Dallas, Coopers and Lybrand. I am a CPA. But I realized after about 30 minutes, my first day on the job, that I didn't like CPA stuff. I'm more hands-on, and I love the operations of a business. And I've moved from Coopers and Lybrand to Motorola and helped run one of their businesses in the Phoenix area and really around the world. And it was multiple operations worldwide, literally. And that's when I fell in love with the operations. We ran 24/7. And whether I kind of joke with people, whether you're manufacturing computer chips or taco chips, and you can see the brand that I'm with right over, on this side with Del Taco, it's the same process. And you deal with people and process a lot. So I worked with Motorola, and then I've been with Del Taco with this brand for 20 years now, 21 years. And
right. I did not realize that you started, that you were actually have an accounting background. That's very interesting. Can you please tell us a little bit about you and where you are right now in your franchise journey?
Absolutely. We've moved quickly from one store, buying the real estate and building it, up to 55 units now. So we own and operate 55 Del Taco restaurants in two major markets, in Arizona and Colorado. We have a total team of almost 1,000 employees. And of that, I have 4 directors of operations, director of growth and development, and then a director of strategy. And then I have 9 district managers that oversee the direct operations of the stores.
Well, and how long did it take you to go from 1 unit to 55?
It's interesting. It's really exponential the way this works. And you can do it through acquisition. But we went from 1 unit to 2 units, 3, all the way up to about 9 units, just building one at a time. And then an acquisition came our way, and we acquired 6, 7 stores, and then another acquisition, and we acquired another group of stores, and then a 19-store acquisition. And before you know it, we're at 55 stores.
Oh, wow. So at the beginning, you were building from the ground up, one by one, from 1 to 9. And then through acquisitions, you were able to grow to where you are right now. Great.
Yes.
So let me go back and ask you, why did you choose? So you were a Motorola, right? And why did you choose franchising? And then I'm going to ask you why you chose Del Taco, but why franchising?
Yeah, the short answer is I'm not smart enough to come up with my own product or service to be successful. But really, the truth is the franchise model works. The franchisors have got it figured out. They've got the process. And then guys like us, franchisees, can step in, and it's hard enough just running that process. But if we run the process, it works, and we can be successful. And so instead of recreating the wheel, basically, we purchased the wheel through purchasing the rights to franchise. And I think it's a great model. The whole franchise model works very well.
And how do you even learn about franchising? So I guess I'm stepping back. So you were Motorola, you were successful. How do you even learn about the option of franchising?
It's interesting. I've always been interested in owning my own business, and I again just wasn't sure how to get into that. And what I realized was you could get into $1 million business or greater by buying a franchise. And my original goal was, I thought if I could own 3 to 5 Del Taco restaurants in the Phoenix market, that would be a great market, a great little business, and we could do well. And turn around and we're at 55 units now.
That's amazing. So why Del Taco? Like, what are the things, what kind of things when you were choosing your franchise, right? The franchise that you were going to grow with, you were looking at all the options, I'm sure, and there were certain things you were looking for. So what were you looking for and why did you end up choosing that brand?
Yeah, that's a great question. That takes me back about 21 years ago, thinking through all this. And really what I wanted, I'm a little bit more conservative, as conservative as you can be in the franchise business, all right? But I'm a little more conservative, and I wasn't at a point where I really wanted to go with a startup. There's more risk with the startup. There could certainly be more reward. I wanted something that was more established. Del Taco is a very strong regional second player in the Mexican QSR space. Certainly, Taco Bell is number one with about 7,000 units. Del Taco now has about 600. And so we're a very strong player in that segment. We had somebody ahead of us that built the market and has been highly successful. And so I really believed in the market, the product, and the brand.
Interesting. Yeah, very, very good. And so having said that, now that you have been in there for quite some time, what has been the most surprising thing you have experienced? Because obviously you had an idea, you had expectations, but once you're in it, it's a whole other world, right? And so what is the most surprising thing that you noticed since you actually joined, the brand and started opening, you go like, wow, I didn't expect that. Like, what? Tell me a couple of things that fall in that, under that.
Well, I'll tell you 2 things, and it's a great question. I'll tell you one early on that people don't realize. A lot of people, like I just read an article that Shaquille O'Neal is participating in another chicken concept, doing something with that. And people look at the franchise business and they say, wow, I can invest in it, be an owner, and be absentee. I found nothing could be further from the truth. And one of the surprises, when I opened my first store, we were doing record sales volumes. I went from working probably 10 to 12-hour days at Motorola to literally working 16 to 18-hour days for a long period of time. And you have to be committed 100%. I knew that going in mentally, but you really understand it when you start your business. And you've really got to invest your whole life to this for a while.
Before you go to the second thing, I had to say you are so absolutely right, especially at the beginning, because I'm sure you're not working 16, 18 hours a day anymore. But at the very beginning, the value of being able to be present and live it and breathe it and eat it. And, it's so important to set the base, because then as you grow, you can start, what to expect, because, and then you have a certain level of, empathy for the people in your team too, because you know what it feels like to be standing up for 18 hours and your feet hurt and your back hurts and your toes hurt and everything hurts, but then you really are able to get it and you're able to lead that. And I think that is a very good lesson for any of you out there that are watching this, that are wanting to be franchising. For sure, it does solve a problem. Like Brent said, it gives you what I call, and I don't know if you heard this, Brent, but what I call half of the problem of business, right? Business, from our perspective at the Academy, we see it from having 2 parts. The one part is the brand, from where you're going to get revenue, and the other part is how you're going to manage to make the profit. And so franchising absolutely solves the problem of the revenue. It gives you a proven brand, assuming you have the right brand, because Brent, you and I know not every brand is created equal.
Exactly.
Right? So you got to really find and do your due diligence to find the one that is actually going to be the right proven brand for you. And then you don't have to be, if it's a food service, you don't have to be a chef. You don't have to be a commercial cook. You don't have to know about the equipment and vendors and what phase of oven you're going to get, or what type of fryer, and or the image or colors of the image or any of those things, because the brand solves that for you, right? And so definitely solves the revenue, how to make money come in.
Yes.
But then you have to figure out how to make profit with that money, coming in, right? So I love that. That is a very good surprising. And by the way, we call it, Brent, we call it the biggest secret in the franchise world.
Yes.
You know, that you think you're going to get everything you need to be successful, but you don't get everything.
You don't get everything.
Yeah, but you get a great, an amazing part, right? Which is very important to have that problem solved, because the amount of abilities and skills you need to have to be able to build a brand from scratch. I mean, very few people can do it, right? Which is why there's only a certain number of brands, while there are millions of entrepreneurs, right?
Exactly.
So for sure. So that's a great, yeah, that's a very great surprising thing. So what was the second surprising thing?
The second item, and let me fast forward then, probably 18 years, is the amount of opportunity there is. When you think of the American dream of building a business and growing, again, I'll go back to my goal was, I thought it was a lofty goal of maybe 5 units, and we're at 55. And as I look ahead, we'll hopefully be more than that in the future. But it's truly, you can achieve your dreams in the franchise space.
I love that.
Yeah, it wasn't so much a surprise as it is just reality as we got into it.
Right, but it's a reality for you now.
Yes.
That you're in it and living it through it. It is not something that so it's not surprising to you now, but if somebody had told you way back when that this was possible for you, you would have been like, no, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, which is why, we live, for us in the franchising world, because exactly the franchisors allow so many people to accomplish the dream of business ownership, and that's what we and you don't know this, but we have a mission, our mission, our vision, and our values, but our internal purpose at the Academy is to protect the American dream of business ownership through franchising.
That's great.
Yeah, and because of and so anything that we can do to help make that happen and inspire people to do that, it's
right.
It's our purpose. But that's great. So those are the surprising things. So tell me a little bit about the challenging things, because it hasn't been easy. I mean, you've gone through all of this. So tell us about the challenges, and you can give us a little bit of each one and how you overcame it, and how do you end up working out at the end?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like every job that you have, every job has its own unique challenges, right? And when you own your own business, you expect challenges every day, and you have to enter it with a mindset that there will be challenges. Challenges are normal. It's part of the process. You just have to develop, or just that, a process. And so the two of the biggest challenges from the beginning and even now are probably people and getting the right people, not just the number of people, but the right people on your team, and developing them into leaders that you can trust and confide in. And then number two is process. And I'm putting my CPA hat on too as well, but really developing the process from the very beginning on store number one, and being relentless with that as you grow, that you can't sacrifice that. And the process for everything, it can be the people process. It can be even as simple as your onboarding process, to make sure you're doing that correctly, to the operational process, to, on our side, then our third leg is the profit process. And what does that look like? And one thing, as I read your book, The Franchise Fix, the whole time I was nodding my head, yes. And I was underlining things. So that's exactly what we went through the whole process. And if you can do it well early on, and don't think that we're too small, we don't need to do that. No, just the opposite. It's develop those disciplines early, and they will reward you as you grow. So probably the two things, the people, and being very deliberate on getting the right people. And that's a never-ending process. If you think you need 20, continue to hire when you get to 20, because you'll lose some or improve your team.
Yeah, because no matter what, I mean, you will have turnover, right? The average turnover rate, or it used to be before COVID, on food service, is 150%. That means that you're going to lose everybody plus another 50% more of your people within a year. So no matter what, so even if you work at staff, you got to continue to get to staff, because you're going to lose people. That's just the reality. That's just the nature of, the food service industry, right? And retail in general, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So obviously now you're 55 units, you're beyond what you initially, put yourself through. and people being one of the biggest challenges. Can you tell us a couple of things that you've done that has actually made a difference for you in your organization that maybe other people can see, oh, I could do that, and on how to get the right people in place?
Yeah, well, let me step back first. Is we were very deliberate, and you may ask this later, I'm not sure, but we were very intentional. And it wasn't until I got to about 10 stores. I wish I had had your book and your material at one store. All right. But at about 10 stores or 12 stores, I realized the company is too big now. I can't touch every store every day. And I've got to start looking at culture. And so really focus on the culture, and that I want the culture to represent what I believe. And so really focus on culture and core values and what we're all about. When you're in the store at one or two stores, you can see it. People see it when you're in the store. But as you grow and you can't touch them, you've got to have a different way to do that. And it's really communicating. Number one, identifying that this is important, and identifying, just a quick, simple statement about here's what we represent. Here's what we want to represent. And then our core values. We use acronyms like we don't change our core values very often on things, but years ago, we used the acronym RACE, R-A-C-E. And when I introduced it to our team, we went to the F1 racetracks and we raced to get the point across. And it wasn't, the winner was not the person with the fastest time. The winner for us was after 2 or 3 races, it was the person that improved the most was our winner.
And, I love that.
Yeah. And so now we use a different acronym, SERVE. It expands it a little bit, but just something that's easy they can remember. The heart of it is we're served. We serve people. We're servants to our guests. We serve our people. And so we use that acronym, but really the people side and being intentional and deliberate about the people. You can't do it yourself. You can't do everything yourself. You need a strong team.
I love that. And so that you created your own charter, your own mission, separate from Del Taco, I guess. So yeah. Del Taco may or may not have one, and then you decided, you know what, I really want to take that on. You created your own. Is that right?
That's correct. Actually, and the way it worked out, Del Taco came in with one after us, and they use the acronym PRIDE, and ours is SERVE. So we combined them and said serve with pride. So it's worked out real well. Dumb luck maybe, but it worked out well for us.
Oh, that is fabulous. I love that, because that's definitely one of the things that as you know, it's in my book, and it's something that we talk with our clients about, the importance of creating that culture, which is why it is not the first chapter of the book, the second, but the first chapter is just what is a franchise, right? So you understand that. But after that, that leadership, that culture is absolutely definitely important. Can you give me one specific thing that you do? I mean, you haven't mentioned, but one specific thing that if I go into a store, I would see your culture. Like, tell me one specific thing that you do.
One thing you'd see, I hope you would see this across, is our relentless focus on execution. It's so difficult. It's great. And a lot of people come up with ideas, but executing is the hardest part. And so it's really, we've read books together as a leadership team. We practice execution. And it's not execution as if you don't work here anymore, boom, you're gone. It's getting things done. It's really, like, do what you say you'll do. And just be a person of integrity. That when you say you'll do something, you actually do it.
Yeah, integrity and the value of your word. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. So you knew from the beginning that you were going to go to, you said 5 units. That was like your dream and your goal, right? I'm going to do one, and then 5 is going to be great, right? So why 5? Like, you decided you want to go multi-unit. You didn't want to just have one. What in your mind made you decide as a business owner that you wanted to go to 5? Was it you knew that at that point you make enough money? Like, what was the reason why?
Yeah, that's a great question. By the way, I thought 5 might have been a stretch goal at the time. All right. So maybe I didn't stretch it far enough, but I thought 5 would allow me scalability, that I could scale and I could run a business as opposed to running a store. And that I could afford to have general managers in each store, a district manager over that, and then I could basically be a director of operations over that area. So I think the scalability of it is.
I love it. And I guess the scalability, and because I'm hearing then time freedom, right?
Yes.
So I love it because one of the things that I say in my second book is you go from, when you become a multi-unit, you go from a 1-unit job to a multi-unit enterprise, right?
Yes.
And so you're absolutely right. So and in there I said, if you want to grow beyond the one, that you got to grow one district manager area.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're still doing the work every day, day in and day out.
Right.
And so you already had that in mind. You already knew, okay, at 5 units, I make enough cash flow. I can hire a district manager to oversee it. And now I become a DO. I have time freedom, but my business is taken care of.
Matter of fact, when people ask me about switching from the corporate world to the franchise world, one of the biggest benefits that I've experienced is just that, the freedom of time. And it's not that we work less. I probably work as many hours I've ever worked. And I really enjoy what I do, but it gives me flexibility that when my kids are adults now, we're empty nesters, but when my kids played football or cheer and they had a 4 o'clock game in JV football, I was in the stands. I was there. Sometimes it allowed me the opportunity to coach. And I would come back and work at night, but it gave me flexibility in my schedule. And that means a lot to me.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And you're right, because you still are working a lot. You still have to be present and available, but then you can actually flex that and be in control of your time. So you're absolutely right. And another one great benefit of franchising and multi-unit, which is our focus, like if you wanted just a job, okay, take 1 unit, that's your job, that's it. You clock in, you clock out, that's how you do it. But if you really truly want all the benefits that franchising can give you, that's when you go and above. What made you go beyond the 5? Like, is it because opportunity happened, or you just realize, oh, if I can do 5, I can do 6? Like, how do you make that decision? Well, first of all, how long between 1 and 5? How much time?
That's a great question. Probably 4 years. I was averaging about 1 to 1.5 stores a year.
Okay. So it give you the time to understand the business, create the systems that you needed to create. As you go to 1 to 2 is a big shock.
Yes.
Right. 3 is like chaos. And that's when if you don't have the systems, then you definitely are drowning. And at that point to go beyond, you have to create systems. You have to, what we say, clone yourself. You have to figure out a way so that people will do the things the way that you would do it or better. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually one thing tying into that question is early on, somebody asked me the question about how much is enough. And I told my goal is 5. And I gave some kind of a great answer, I'm sure, but I don't really know what it was. It took me about a year to really study that question. How much is enough? Is 5 enough? And why not stop after 2 or 3? What I realized for me in my life was I have 5 specific goals in life. 2 of them are financial related to the business, and 3 of them are really time commitments. And if I can achieve those 5 goals in my business of franchising while I continue to grow, the question of how much is enough isn't really applicable to me. Really, the question should be is, why wouldn't I continue to grow if I can achieve those 5 life goals? And so as long as I continue to achieve my 5 life goals, it may be 100 units. It could be 150. I don't know. And to do that, I need people and driven on process to do it.
I love that. Now, are you willing to share any of those 5 life goals?
Absolutely. Yeah. The first 3 are time with my wife, commitment to my wife, and commitment to my family. And I also, at that time, 20 years ago, working in the corporate world, I wasn't available to help people when they needed it. Something as simple as a friend's moving and they just need someone to help them during the week. I couldn't. I was tied up from 7 a.m. till 6, 7 o'clock every day, and I couldn't even go out to help. And then, so it's really time on the first 3, wife, family, and then other relationships. And the other 2 are, number 1 is a 20% return on investment. A 20% return on the investment that we put in. And we buy a lot of the real estate that we do. And then the last one is continuous improvement, and tied into that vein of continue to improve every year on our earnings. So earnings have to beat the prior year. Each year.
I love it. And you say 20 because you want to be able to beat the market. You want to be able to beat real estate. You want to be able to beat whatever else you can put your money on. So if you're going to put your money in this, might as well be better than any other place you could invest money in. So that makes sense. Definitely. Yeah. Love it. I thank you for sharing that. I'm sure people that are watching this are going to say, oh, okay, that's great. Because you're right. You have to have those goals.
You do.
I remember there was a time in my life where I didn't have goals and I really got stuck in, I wasn't moving forward. And, whether the goals that you have at some point in time may change. I'm sure you had goals at some point that they changed, but as long as you have a goal, you're driving towards it and you're moving forward. Don't you think?
I do. And I can tell you that those 5 goals, really, it's almost part of our vision. For me personally, part of the vision, they haven't changed in 20 years. The time with my wife, my family, with other people, extended family or friends, and then the 20% return, I have rarely ever made an exception on that line. And then same with the improvement. Continuous improvement is we have to get better every year. There may have been some small setbacks, but you have to figure out how to overcome that.
Oh, I love it. So last 2 years, COVID hit.
Oh boy.
COVID hit last 2 years. And, and I will be remiss about asking you, like, at what point in time, did you realize this is something that you need to pay attention to and do a change? And I remember when the first notifications came out about what was happening in China, I started looking. I don't know if you know this, but I'm very much an international. I have a lot of international clients, and I've come from out of the country, so I have that international experience and awareness that not a lot of people have. And I started literally, actually, I was cleaning my desk and I moved it, and I started finding, when I was taking note of the number of cases that as they were growing, like literally, and you'll be surprised about this. Let's see. Oh my gosh, was this the date? Can't find it. Anyways, I was keeping track of the cases as they were being reported in China. And I started making phone calls. I told my clients, I told people in other countries, and I was telling them, in my mind, it was part shortages, because the notification was this, that the air in China has been cleared. When I hear that there was no smog over the air overlooking China, I knew that people were not working meaning no production meaning no products, means no equipment, no parts, no anything that was coming. And so literally that's where I went. Not realizing the worldwide impact that was going to happen afterwards, right? And I tell people, order parts immediately. If you are supplies, I have a friend of mine that has a production of marketing products that depends on ink. Ink, order parts, whatever it is, and people that are, my clients, if you have parts for your ice cream machine, for your fryers, order parts, whatever you see, this order. That's what I was thinking. Literally in February of last year.
Wow.
And so we started talking about all that. And then, of course, as things just progressed, we would adjusted our conversations. But for your perspective, what were the things that you were thinking when you started seeing that? And what did you do to overcome that, to prepare and overcome, and the adjustments that you had to make as we realized it was longer and longer, right?
Yes, exactly. And you were ahead of the game. All right. Interesting. We had just acquired 5 stores in the kind of the southwest part of Arizona. And I remember standing in front of the team, introducing ourselves, talking to them, welcoming them to our team. And when somebody asked the question, one of the new general managers asked the question about, what do you think the impact is going to be from this thing called COVID? And I just said, it's like anything else. You get the flu season and it hits, and then it's going to be gone. I had no idea it would last 2-3 years, whatever it's going to be on it. It was the early part of March that when we started experiencing shutdowns in both markets, in Colorado and Arizona, and our sales and transactions, like everybody else, fell over 30% overnight. And at that point, we really shifted. And as a leader, my wife and I were in another market in Flagstaff, Arizona. And our plan was to come back a couple of days later. We ended up being there for about 3 weeks, and we literally rarely moved from our desk. And we were on the phone. I was having daily conference calls with the franchisor on what they see, what they're doing, with my CPA, with my attorney, with my bankers, with all the lenders, with my landlords. And number one, I was also telling them, we're okay. We're going to be okay. Don't panic. Don't panic. And they just needed to hear that. Once I told them that, I had to step back and say, okay, now what are we going to do about this? All right.
Right.
And we were quick to get after it. We were quick to make changes. What was interesting, and throughout this whole process, is it wasn't just the COVID restrictions. It was followed quickly by riots, curfews that were set. And I spent hours of my day listening to governors in their press conferences every Wednesday, sometimes it's multiple times a week, trying to understand, what did they just require us to do? There's a curfew. Everything's closed at 8 p.m. Does that mean essential workers, food workers also? And if it does, what does that mean? We had to develop letters that we gave to our employees that would allow them to drive if they got pulled over. I never would have imagined that was in the United States doing that. But we were dealing with things that we had never dealt with before. We communicated upward with our franchisor and to the entire team at least once a week through the process. We had Teams calls with the entire team and just walking them through. There was so much uncertainty, and I'm such a believer in times of uncertainty, you've got to provide that certainty to some people. And you got to
they need to feel that they can count on you.
Yes.
They're good. If you are staying in control and they feel your certainty and your confidence, then they will come down, and then you'll just look at you. You gotta be the trunk, the tree trunk that holds everything back, because people are gonna lean. I totally get that. Totally.
Exactly. And communicate that we're not going to make rash decisions, that we're going to continue with the same process that's gotten us 20 years into this. We've been successful. We'll continue the same process. And it's a lot of collaborative effort between a lot of people. And it also, I think it really highlights the importance in this day and age of everything's online and digital, and we use our phones for everything. And that's important. It's a big part of our business, but it doesn't replace relationships. The relationship with your franchisor, the relationship with your lender, maybe an attorney, just to get advice, and different people. And really, as I've grown, it's never one person, right? It wasn't Brent that did this. It's a team effort. And we have really a team of people that we surround ourselves with, and that I do. And I seek their counsel on a lot of things. And I was on the phone constantly throughout that period, just to ask other people's opinion. At the end of the day, I'm the decision maker, and I love that, and I'm great with that, but I don't see everything. And so I really sought counsel from a lot of people on what they see and what they saw from their perspective.
Yeah. And I assume that includes, the people in your field, in your stores, right? In your restaurants, because as you were getting from a high level, right, lawyers and accountants, what, you can also hear from your people in your front lines, and then they're giving you information of things that you may not see either.
Yes. And I share a couple of things we do. I have, out of 55 managers, I probably have about 10% of them, 5 of them that I have a deeper than normal relationship with. Maybe they were part of one of the first stores that I opened, and we worked shoulder to shoulder in the store, for 18-hour days, and we just get each other. And so I have probably about 5 general managers. Well, I solicit input from all of them. There are 5 that I really know that I can go to, and they will give me the God honest truth, even if I don't want to hear it. And I really appreciate hearing that from them.
Oh, wow. And how valuable is that you have that? How valuable that you can actually have those people that you can, ask those questions, that they know your intention. They know your heart. They know your true intentions. They know how much you care. And they know that you will hear them, number one, and that whatever information they give you, you're going to use to make the best decisions for your organization. And so I think that right there, it's a great best practice for franchisees. You know, do you have, if depending on the size, right? Because if you have 5, at least one of them be someone that you can actually call and get the honest truth besides your district manager, right?
Yes.
Because again, the district manager is not in the front line as much as
Yes.
you, even if they cover in shifts, they still not there day in and day out hearing, you know, about things, right? And so having that connection and being able to manage that, right? Because now you're skipping some levels. So that's, you know, it could be a little sensitive, right? I just realized that. How do you manage that? How do you manage that?
Yeah, some of our guys, our DOs, the director of operations and district managers aren't always excited about it. But we have an open door policy, and I remind them we have nothing to hide. Another thing that I do to try to combat that is about once a year, I try to go and I work in a store over the weekends or multiple stores, and I'll just be there. And when I say work, I don't mean sitting in the dining room. And we have a taco bar that all of our food, and I get in to make food, and I do that all day long. I'll give you an example. We were open at Christmas time this last year. We asked our team to be open. We were only in some of our smaller towns, Flagstaff, Arizona, for example. We were only one of 2 restaurants open in the entire town. Denny's, who had over a 3-hour wait to get served, and Del Taco. Wow. I worked a lot of grand openings, and I thought a $10,000 sales day was fantastic, net sales. We did over $15,000.
Wow. In one day.
One day. And it was Christmas Day, and I was there with the team working. What an awesome team we had. And we were there from 9 in the morning. I was only there from 9 to about 6 in the evening. Some of them continued longer. And just a positive attitude. And when things get a little rough in there, and it does at times, it gets a little challenging when you're doing $1,500 hours. You know, you just kind of look at them and just kind of bump them and just kind of smile. It's okay. Let's just keep going.
You know what? The fact that you were there with them, and going through it, and if they can see you, the owner, there, like you said, shoulder to shoulder, smiling, hey, we're gonna get through this, the teamwork, the camaraderie. If you're okay with it, they're gonna be okay with it. I mean, oh my gosh, I think that's amazing.
What the side benefit of that, a byproduct of that is, in some of those stores that I've done that in, I can walk in the store and the lead taco bar person will come over to me and just start talking and telling me things that you otherwise wouldn't know and otherwise wouldn't hear. To your point, you gain the trust of your team.
Yeah, and they realize you're just another person, just like anybody else. We just all have different jobs.
Exactly.
But I'm not scary. I'm not better than you. I'm not worse. I mean, we're just people. And the fact that you do that, it gives them the freedom to then come to you and tell you and share with you things that you wouldn't know otherwise. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's one of the most enjoyable parts of my job, is getting in there and working with people and talking to them. And honestly, I can't keep up with them anymore. Some people are very fast at their jobs. They're very good at their jobs, but just being there with them and relating to them. It's great. I love that part of the job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can totally see that. And so I would say that would be one of your secrets of success in the franchise world, right? So along with that, can you give us, like, you know, a couple of things that you would think that, like, think of a franchisee that is watching this, that is seeing all that you've accomplished. You went from 1 to 5 to 55 units. And, you know, what are the things that you think are the principles that you have lived by, you know, through the process that have helped you be successful as a multi-unit franchisee, you know, where you are right now? What would you share with people like that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Aisha. I would say a couple things. Number one is, it's never too soon to really, what we talked about earlier, to really identify what are your core values and you stand for, and then stand behind those core values in your decisions. Don't alter. And the temptation is to cut corners at times on certain things, and you absolutely can't do that. And then for us, we have 3 pillars that we really focus on. Number one is people. People first. And whatever that looks like within people. And that could be training, development, different areas of people. Number 2 is the operations of the business. And then number 3, By doing 1 and 2, it makes 3 easier. And that's the profitability of the business. And as a CPA and a numbers guy coming into the business, at first, I was looking probably more, just to be real transparent, I was looking more at the third one instead of the first and second. And what I've learned over the years of my experience is you really truly have to invest in people first, operations second, and third is the profitability of the business. It will be there if you do the first 2 well and relentlessly, the third one will be there.
Yeah, exactly. The third is the result or the product of the first 2.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah. There are franchisees that don't know how to read a profit and loss statement. I can tell you that. And yet they're successful because they do 1 and 2. Right. And so it just transfers into the report card, which is the profitability, right?
Exactly. I would encourage, we live by our P&Ls. I share our profit and loss statements with our team. So the general managers see it. We have a profit sharing plan set up so that if they increase profit, when they increase profit, they get a percentage of that. And so they truly can become like an owner.
I love that. When you are Domino's used to do that, and I don't know if they do that right now, but I started in the corporate world, in the corporate operations of Domino's, and that's what it was. We get 20% of the net profit of the unit, and so the P&Ls were literally taped to the wall on the office door of the manager so that everybody can see it, because 20% of that we all knew was the bonus of the manager, and that's how one of the main reasons why it inspired me to move up, because sharing those numbers and that information, say, okay, so it is possible. It's transparent. I think transparency. I think that's one of the secrets of success. And you think transparency?
Yes. With transparency, I think builds trust. And so I think that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So what other things you can think of that are best practices that you would share with somebody new? Like you mentioned that you own real estate. That's one of the questions many clients ask me. Should we own the real estate or should we not own the real estate? Right. And so, the answer is I would love to hear your answer. First of all, do you own the real estate of all your properties? And why is owning the real estate important for you at this point?
Yeah, those are great questions. Before even getting into the business, and I was studying the franchise world, what I realized was some companies like McDonald's, and while they are known for their Big Macs, they're actually a real estate company as well. And they own a lot of their real estate, and that's helped them be highly successful. Chick-fil-A is another model similar to that on it. And with my finance background on it, looking at a lease rate and really what I have to pay in a debt service on a loan, my loan payment, they were about the same. And I thought, I can own this and build equity in this as opposed to paying out basically rent or a lease payment. And from a lending perspective, the lenders really like having that as collateral so that you can expand quickly as well. Well, that's absolutely been a best practice for us. Now, out of 55 stores, we own about 20 real estate. So we don't own all of them. Some of them went through acquisitions. We didn't have the opportunity to purchase the real estate, and so we lease it, and they do well. But I have to admit, every period when I go through my P&Ls and I look at another landlord, a landlord's name in there and what we're paying them, it kind of turns my stomach a little bit, thinking that should stay in house.
Yeah, it hurts a little bit. It does. Yeah,
it does. Yes.
Totally get that. Wow. Right.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So here you are, 55 units. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what's the future for you? Are you going to expand? Are you committed to this brand and expanding in the brand? Hopefully they're not watching. Or are you thinking multi-brand? Because that's another question I get from a lot of our clients, right? Aisha, at what point in time can I go multi-brand? And sometimes these guys and ladies are looking way too early.
Right.
And I will tell you my opinion, but before I want to hear your perspective on that multi-brand. So let's ask that question. So how your plan is to continue with that brand, or are you eventually at some point in time thinking going multi-brand?
Well, let me preface it by saying that my predictions, I'm not an economist, and my predictions sometimes don't work. All right. For example, I was hoping for 5 stores, ended at 55. All right. I love what I do. And as long as I can continue to achieve my 5 goals that we talked about, I'm going to continue to, my plan is to continue to build. I love the Del Taco brand. It's been very good to us. It is a very strong brand. The executive leadership team, whether they ever watch this video or not, they know how I feel. They are spot on. These are guys that are collaborative in their approach to running a business. And they approach the franchisees as, well, it's one trusted brand, whether it's company stores or franchise stores. So I suspect, well, I have a Del Taco logo on my chest. Today, I deliberately did not put a Del Taco shirt on for this video. I forgot I'd have Del Taco behind me on here. But yes, I will. I suspect I will be with Del Taco probably the rest of my life, and hopefully that's years to come. If there were a second brand that presented itself, and it would have to be, again, this is just me, but what I found with many CEOs, and I associate with other CEOs through different associations that I'm involved in. And sometimes the tendency is when you've achieved a level of success in one business, you think you can do it in many businesses. And it's not always true. For example, I know the QSR space pretty well. I can run Del Taco restaurants pretty well. If I got into a casual dining area, I haven't done that. I don't have the experience. I don't think I could do that as well. So within the QSR space, in that quick serve restaurant area, if there were another opportunity that presented itself in a market that made sense for us, then we would consider doing that as well. But I will continue. We're buying more real estate for Del Taco right now, and we'll keep building Del Tacos.
I love that. I love that. So that if you read my second book, my recommendation for anybody before you go multi-brand to grow to a minimum of 3 district manager areas is what I say. The minimum that you should grow in one brand is 3 district manager areas, because then you have the synergies and the advantages of having, if you lose 1 district manager, you have 2 that can, there's many reasons why a minimum of 3 district manager areas before you consider, a second brand. And you're right, because then you lose focus. Because while you are buying a proven brand, you got to develop your business management systems. And while they are principles that do translate, sometimes not exactly, and the moment that now you are dividing your focus in 2 different things, it is a whole other, you probably cannot grow at the speed and excellence in which you can when you have one brand. And that's just,
Exactly.
what I share. And sometimes they don't like it because some of them have like, oh, this brand and that brand, and they think that's well, that depends on what your goal is. Your goal making money, then stay with money. If your goal is ego, and I literally say, is your reason ego or is it money or freedom, right?
Yeah. And I think something to add to that, and by the way, I would say amen to that, what you just said. It is having multiple district managers just so they can learn from each other as well. It goes a long way.
Support each other, be a team, because a district manager role, you and I know, is a very lonely, hard job. And if you have fellow district managers that you can depend on and lean on, and even if it's just commensurate with, right? It's so valuable for the team.
Exactly. One thing to note too, as we've grown to 55, is I've probably turned down probably as many opportunities as I've accepted. It just didn't make sense for whatever reason. Financially, maybe the price was too high. Maybe it just, again, wasn't synergistic with who we are. I'll give you an example to your point. I was just presented an opportunity for a different brand in this market, but it just isn't synergistic with who we are. And so I'm not interested. It's got to be something that we know really well, that we can be, it ties into our brand, the Del Taco brand, that we know we can make successful.
Yeah, love it, love it. So as you have grown, from 1 unit to 5 to 55, obviously who you were back then is not who you are today. So as a leader, CEO, and a person responsible for 1,000 people's livelihoods, 1,000 people's experience, you had to grow and develop yourself as a person, right? And as a leader, what kind of things do you do to develop yourself so that you can be up to the challenge to lead this organization?
So that's a great question. And to tie into an earlier question, maybe about one of the surprises is that I hadn't really considered that as I was going in and approaching this. I hadn't considered how I would have to change. I knew my role and job would change. Part of it is, again, surrounding myself with people that are very competent in their area of expertise, whether it's an accountant, an attorney, whether it's an operations team. I'm very close with the Del Taco corporate operations team. Part of how I've been able to do this is you've got to invest in yourself to develop. Interesting enough, I was just telling my district managers who are going through one of your training courses right now that there's a time that you've got to invest time in yourself to learn and develop. Part of the way I've done that, I've had the privilege to run the franchise association for Del Taco Corporate, and being able to work directly with many other franchisees. That some of these guys have skill sets that are so much stronger than mine, and I can learn from these folks, these guys and these ladies out there that just are doing it right, and I can learn from them. Another that I've done is I've joined a CEO association. We meet once a month, and it's lonely as a district manager. It's lonelier as a director of operations, and the higher you go, really the less people that you have that you can really lean on that understand what you're going through, with some of the challenges and the opportunities. And so along the way, I've done that, and I've joined an association, people of different industries, but they all have something in common, that they are the leader of an organization. And we will discuss, it's very deliberate, very specific. We discuss our businesses confidentially. And the interesting thing is that once you get to a certain level, you realize that it's really process driven. It's people and operations. And while the operations may be different in each business, hiring the people, the process of developing the people, the process of executing and getting things done is the same across different industries. And so we can learn from other people. And that's exactly what I try to do, is learn from people from different industries.
Oh, I love that. I love that, because there are things in different industries that can help. Even, coming from the QSR background, when I joined the Darden Restaurants organization, casual dining, it was a huge, I learned so much, because different to be drive-through speed of service, and all the things that I learned. I mean, Darden Restaurants are, it's an amazing organization. And they had things that they could learn about speed of service, right? The same way that QSR could learn about them, and just having that, even that diversity was I can imagine being exposed to other industries. And I guess I see that now with having clients from different industries, because as an academy, we're not just food service. We service, service companies like Massage Envy. We have schools, car washes, etc. So which have different industries. So there's definitely there about that. I love that. I love that. That's a great best practice for the people watching this. Is there, I don't know. I mean, I ask you all the questions that I have. And so my question to you is, any last thoughts as we close this interview, of things that you think that the people are out there that are listening and watching this and thinking, wow, okay, so if he can do it, so can I. There are accountants, there are insurance agents, real estate people, right? All the, the people that had a career, got into corporate and have some money put away, and they're afraid to making that step towards franchising, or they have one, they can envision themselves being multi-unit. Like, anything else that you would say as a closing comments to this amazing interview?
I can tell you that I really enjoy what I do. You've got to have a heart for the business and a passion for it. If you have that passion, it can be a great business. And I would say, starting out, it's really work on the basics. Do the basics well. Become an expert on that and know your business. There's nothing that beats knowing your business, so that when you do grow and you do expand, you know what the cook's going through, what the grill person's going through, and you have a heart for them, and you can go back and reflect back on, I remember when, and I know how to run the business. And you can't get buffaloed as easily that way either. You know your business well. Another thing I would say is, understand what good looks like. And what I mean by that is, what does a great business really look like? I'll talk to many people that say, man, we're doing really well. And, financials are real strong and operations are real strong. And if I'll get numbers from them and I'll look at it and I'm like, wow, they're really not as strong as they should be. Mm-hmm. And so that's one thing that I challenge our guys on is benchmark best in class. Who's the best? And that takes a lot of humility to do that because you like to think you're doing well. Mm-hmm. And in order to really continuously improve, I believe you've got to benchmark the best in class. Who is the best? If you're after speed, who's the fastest? And how do they do it? And then what do we need to do to approach where they are and to make ourselves better? So those are a couple thoughts. And you never stop learning. You've got to continue to learn and continue to implement and follow up on everything.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you very much, Brent. That was excellent. I mean, amazing wisdom coming from somebody who's been there, done that. And I really appreciate you taking the time to sharing this, with our audience, because I know they're going to value this information a lot. And now your legacy will live forever in this video.
And let me take a moment just to thank you too. Your book I thought was excellent. I read it a couple of weeks ago and when we got it. And if you look at it, it's marked up all over the place. And it really took me back to some of those core principles that we should be doing that maybe we've drifted a little bit. So this is a book that I'm going to have on my filing cabinet or my dresser over here. That'll be a reread periodically.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. And it's funny because I don't know if you know the dedication I dedicated to Philip. Philip was the first franchisee that after I took a hiatus, or what I thought was going to be sabbatical for me from the corporate world, he reached out to me. He was a franchisee of one of the brands I led. And he reached out to me asking me for help. And that's when it really opened my eyes to how much there was, a need for this information. And eventually after working him from a little bit, he said, Aisha, can you just write a book? Because I cannot ask you all the questions. I cannot ask you all the questions. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'll put it in the book. And I wrote the book. It took me a little while. It's not easy. I learned I'm a franchise expert. I am not an author expert. So
well, it's
yeah.
good.
Yeah. So I wrote it down with, with lots of love and just sharing everything that was in here and putting it in the book so that people like you and others could read it and get value out of that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, and I appreciate you asking me to speak today. This has been great.
Yes. Yeah. No, you know what? And it's about sharing information with so many people that have dreams to becoming business owners or grow an enterprise and, going beyond the first one and anything that we can do to inspire others, because there's space for everybody. There's space for everybody. Right. Exactly. And so, and not everybody has the ability to access somebody like you to ask these questions.
And I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that I thrive on is when you get to, as you grow, you have more opportunities to positively impact the lives of other people. And so we look at it, we have 1,000 employees plus their families. I don't know how many people we can impact, but it's a lot of people. And the more we grow, all of us, the more we can positively impact them as well.
Exactly. And that perspective is what's made you successful, Brent. And I'm honored to be able to call you a friend and to have you here with us and for having trust in us in help develop your leaders, so that they can, be better too. And I think that investment that you do on them, it's part of what's made you great. The fact that you're willing to do that, right? So
well, thank you. And I appreciate everything you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Brent. Really appreciate it. And with that, we close this session of Wednesday Wisdom, where we again share information from the people that have done it, been there, so that you can be inspired to be able to accomplish the same thing. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.